Travel alert, global entry, halted and TSA biometrics delayed, March 2026 update. You're standing in a line at an international airport. The overhead lights are cold and white. Your bags are heavy. Your connecting flight is in 40 minutes. You walk up to the global entry kiosk, the one that was supposed to fast-track everything, and the screen reads, enrollment unavailable, not delayed, not processing, unavailable. The CBP officer behind the booth doesn't look surprised. You are. This moment didn't build over years. It shifted in weeks. Weeks that could cost you your trusted traveler status. Weeks that could strand your renewal application in a bureaucratic freeze. Weeks that could force you, a lawfully present immigrant, a work visa holder, a green card applicant, back into the general line with zero explanation. Most people in this situation panic. They call the wrong number. They rebook flights. They assume it's a glitch. It isn't a glitch. What is happening right now with global entry, TSA PreCheck biometrics, and the broader trusted traveler infrastructure is not technical, it is policy, and that distinction matters more than you know. For months now, there had been signals, not from official press releases, not from formal USCIS announcements, just signals that the Department of Homeland Security was preparing something significant in how it manages biometric enrollment and traveler vetting. DHS has been aggressive in its border enforcement posture, yes, but also increasingly centralized in that approach. Every decision, every program update, every enrollment pause has followed a pattern, a consolidation, a restructuring, almost a systematic narrowing of who gets expedited access and under what conditions. But what triggered concern inside immigration legal circles this March was that the pattern suddenly went quiet. Immigration attorneys who monitor CBP processing queues noticed the indicators: the sudden freeze on new global entry enrollment slots, the unexplained delays in biometric appointment scheduling at TSA enrollment centers, the backlog in conditional approvals sitting without adjudication, the silence from CBP's Trusted Traveler Programs Office on timelines. And when DHS goes quiet on a program that affects millions of travelers, including hundreds of thousands of immigrants on valid visas and pending adjustments, something loud is coming. In early March 2026, sources inside the immigration legal community detected what practitioners described as a full administrative hold on new global entry enrollments, including a pause on in-person biometric appointments not seen in over 3 years. These are actions CBP only takes when signaling something specific: a policy overhaul in how traveler data is collected and stored, a realignment with executive order directives on immigration enforcement, or a broader national security reassessment of who qualifies for trusted traveler status and why. Observers weren't sure which one applied, or whether all three did at once, but one thing was clear: DHS was changing its posture on biometric access, and doing so without public explanation. When that happens without explanation, immigration attorneys pay attention, because what gets paused quietly often gets revived with new eligibility requirements attached. The alert circulating among immigration legal professionals this week was not routine. It was not symbolic. It was urgent. Attorney after attorney, in forum after forum, described the move as sweeping, operationally disruptive, and most importantly, potentially permanent in ways applicants are not being warned about. The risk isn't just that your global entry interview gets pushed back 6 months. The risk is that you apply, your conditional approval expires while waiting for a biometric slot, and you have to restart the entire process, paying fees again, submitting documentation again, waiting again. But the bigger risk is this: if you are an immigrant on a visa, an H-1B, an L-1, an F-1 OPT, a green card holder, someone with a pending adjustment of status, and you assume global entry works the way it did 2 years ago, you may be making a decision right now that costs you at every airport you pass through for the next 2 years. Strategy only works if you know the rules have changed. Many travelers don't know yet. What has been confirmed through CBP's own traveler program portals and corroborated by immigration attorney reports is that biometric enrollment appointments through TSA's enrollment centers, which process not just TSA PreCheck but also the in-person biometric component for global entry, are experiencing significant scheduling delays in major metropolitan areas. Cities including New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Miami are showing appointment windows pushed 4 to 7 months out. That delay alone is enough to cause conditional global entry approvals to lapse before the final in-person step can be completed. CBP has not issued a formal public statement explaining why. That silence is itself informative. They targeted renewal applicants who are mid-process with no clear guidance. They targeted new enrollees who are in conditional approval limbo. They targeted green card holders and visa holders who applied assuming the program would function as it did before the current administrative shift. This isn't a scheduling inconvenience, it is a structural freeze that disproportionately affects immigrants, the very population most dependent on documented, verified, trusted traveler status to move through border environments without unnecessary scrutiny. Here's what you actually need to understand about global entry if you are an immigrant, a visa holder, or an adjustment of status applicant. Global entry was always conditional. The program requires background checks, biometric collection, and ongoing eligibility. If your immigration status changes, if your visa type changes, if your adjustment is pending, if there's any enforcement flag on your record, your global entry eligibility can be revoked without notice. What is happening now appears to be a recalibration of who automatically qualifies under the current administration's enforcement framework. Green card holders have historically been eligible. That hasn't been revoked on paper. But what has changed is that CBP is taking longer to approve renewals and new applications from foreign nationals, and the biometric delay is amplifying that wait into a practical barrier. F1 students and H1B holders who are not yet permanent residents are in a more complicated position. Their eligibility has always depended on maintaining valid status. In the current environment, where visa revocations, program changes, and enforcement actions are moving quickly, that condition is less stable than it was. If you applied for global entry last year, received conditional approval, and have been waiting for your biometric appointment, you need to know whether your conditional approval has an expiration date, because many do, and you need to act before it lapses. There is something else happening in parallel that compounds all of this. TSA PreCheck, which does not require a separate in-person CBP interview but does require biometric enrollment at designated centers, is also experiencing disruption. The TSA enrollment infrastructure relies heavily on third-party contractors, IDEMIA being one of the primary operators. Reports from travelers indicate that some enrollment centers have reduced hours, reduced staff, or closed entirely in recent months, cutting available appointment capacity at the same moment that policy uncertainty is driving more applicants into the queue. The result is a bottleneck at both ends, more people trying to enroll or renew, fewer appointment slots available, and a policy environment that isn't offering clear guidance on what happens if your enrollment lapses. For immigrants navigating this, the intersection is dangerous. Your ability to move through U.S. airports with minimal secondary screening is tied to maintaining active enrollment. Let it lapse, and you return to the standard line, where, in the current enforcement climate, being flagged for additional questioning carries a different weight than it did 3 years ago. I want to be direct about what immigrants specifically should do right now. If you have active global entry, check your expiration date today. Do not wait until the last 60 days. In the current environment, you should be initiating your renewal 6 to 12 months before expiration. The queues are that long. If you have conditional approval and are waiting for a biometric appointment, log into the CBP Trusted Traveler Programs portal and verify your conditional approval expiration. If it is within 3 months of expiring and you do not have a biometric appointment scheduled, call CBP directly and document every contact attempt. Immigration attorneys advise that documented good faith efforts to complete enrollment may be relevant if you need to make a case for expedited processing. If you are on an H-1B, L1, or F1 OPT and have not yet applied for global entry, this is the moment to evaluate whether applying makes sense given the delays. Starting the process now, knowing it may take 8 to 12 months to complete, is still better than starting later. If you are a green card holder in removal proceedings or with any open enforcement matter, do not apply for global entry right now without speaking to an attorney first. Your application can trigger CBP scrutiny that creates complications in your broader immigration situation. There is a broader principle at work here that I want you to understand. Every trusted traveler program in the United States, Global Entry, TSA PreCheck, Nexus, Sentry, operates under DHS authority. That means every one of these programs can be modified, paused, restructured, or used as an enforcement mechanism under executive direction. The current administration has demonstrated repeatedly that programs built for administrative efficiency can be repurposed or deprioritized when they conflict with enforcement objectives. Global Entry was built to move low-risk travelers faster. The question now being answered, quietly without public announcement, is how low risk is being redefined in the current policy environment. For immigrants, the lesson is not to assume any program built on trust will remain static. The lesson is to monitor, stay enrolled where possible, keep documentation current, and consult legal counsel before any major shift in your immigration status affects your eligibility. This is not a moment to panic. It is a moment to prepare. The travelers who will be most affected by these delays and enrollment freezes are the ones who weren't watching, the ones who assumed renewal was automatic, the ones who trusted that a conditional approval would stay open until they could get in. You are not one of those people anymore. As this administrative period continues, more details will emerge about what DHS intends for the trusted traveler infrastructure and whether these delays become permanent restructuring or temporary backlog. But one thing is already clear. Knowing this right now doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you prepared. It means you're protecting your travel status. It means you're protecting your time, your money, and your legal standing at every port of entry you cross. Share this video with your family. It might save them a very serious problem one day. Subscribe to Visa Status Radar for more protection. We protect you with real information as the next phase unfolds.